The Greens, National and an ex-Reserve Bank chairman are all calling for an inquiry into the government's economic response to COVID-19.
They say the cost of living crisis and increased inequality are a direct result of the government's COVID cash support packages and the Reserve Bank's printing of money. Political reporter Amelia Wade has this Because It Matters story.
The dawn of unprecedented times requiring unprecedented spending. Lockdowns to shut down COVID.
The worst case scenario is simply intolerable.
To keep Kiwis working, the COVID cash floodgates opened for wage subsidy and business support. And to keep Kiwis spending and borrowing, the Reserve Bank slashed interest rates and pumped out cash.
While they started out with the right intentions and probably the right policies, they didn't think far enough ahead as to what their actions would do to inflation.
To get a sense of the seismic amount of stimulus, here it is with all the zeros. The government spent $58.4 billion from the COVID Response and Recovery Fund, and the Reserve Bank essentially printed $54 billion. Former Reserve Bank Chairman Arthur Grimes says the response was overcooked.
The Reserve Bank kept on accelerating right until the red light came up, saying, oops, inflation's a huge problem, now it's too late to respond.
He argues the Reserve Bank printed too much money for too long and should have hiked interest rates sooner.
Once you see inflation, you see the whites of the eyes of inflation, it's too late.
Pumping cash into the economy also led to skyrocketing increases in asset prices, like houses. The average house price growth over all OECD countries has been just over 10%. Towards the end of 2021, houses here had increased by almost 30%, more than any other country. Compare that to Mexico at the lowest, then the likes of the UK, US and Australia. And this marker is how much prices would have gone up if the pandemic didn't happen. Just 10%.
Obviously, we've seen massive house price inflation, but on top of that, the deepening of inequality.
Chloe Swarbrick has been asking for a select committee inquiry for 5 months, every time Labor has used its majority to block it.
The New Zealand public deserves transparency of understanding about what's happened in this once-in-a-generation, completely unprecedented pandemic, because we're still feeling the effects of it right now.
National has the Greens back.
New Zealanders are suffering every week and they need to know if mistakes were made that could be avoided in future.
There have been numerous opportunities for Nicola Willis and other people to quiz both the government and also officials throughout the COVID pandemic.
Grimes also wants more scrutiny of the Reserve Bank's actions.
How come so many of its senior staff have left in recent times?
And whether the Reserve Bank's dual responsibility for keeping down inflation and employment influenced its decisions.
They were solely focusing on unemployment.
In response to another criticism of the COVID response, the Reserve Bank Governor acknowledged the 7.3% inflation, saying decisions over recent years have influenced this outcome.
An overall look back, sure, there will be a time and a place for that.
Because things have gone wrong, demonstrably have gone wrong. And you don't want to leave that till a year or two down the track. You want to uncover now what's gone wrong and fix it.
An inquiry would give New Zealand a shared set of basic facts about the impact of the economic response. It would likely take a year, so come back right before the election. But kicking the can down the road risks the question of an inquiry becoming an election issue itself. Amelia Wade, Newshub.